Greg Ehrenberg here with Adam Scherer for a Thursday edition of the NBA Injury Report. And back to normal Thursdays. Last Thursday, we had a loaded NBA slate because there were no games on Christmas Eve. Today, more of a traditional four-game NBA slate. Not quite as packed with injuries as we've seen on some of these other shows, but still plenty there to create value, especially in that Nugget situation later on in the day. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if anything comes up later in the day that's going to change anything we talk about, leave a question in the comment section below. I'll be sure to answer that later on in the day. But let's get into some of the injuries for today. And the first one that's pretty pressing, the Cleveland Cavaliers, because their backcourt situation is not looking so great right now. Colin Sexton, he's out for the season. We've known that for a while now. Ricky Rubio out for the season. He tore his ACL. That comes in addition to Darius Garland being in the health and safety protocols. Adam, how is Cleveland going to fill these backcourt minutes, and what happens with usage?
Yeah, I think that it's there's a lot of volatility in that answer, I think, because we haven't really seen any sort of reasonable sample size to conclude what it's going to look like. We know that without Garland and Sexton on the floor, Ricky Rubio had a 27% usage rate this year. So taking him out vacates a lot of usage. But when you think about who's likely to be in the starting lineup, Lauri Markkanen's around a 20% usage guy typically. Evan Mobley's around 18%. Dean Wade is around 10%. Isaac Okoro is low to mid-teens, I believe, off the top of my head. So none of those guys are necessarily the obvious answer to step up and take on more usage. If Kevin Pangos moves into the starting lineup, he's not a high usage guy. I think there is a chance that you get Kevin Love in the starting lineup as well, or not as well, instead of Pangos, just because there's not really a good answer one way or the other. At least Love would take up some of the usage. But if it is Pangos as a starter, I think that Lauri Markkanen and Evan Mobley are the two most likely candidates to take on more usage. There would be more as well for guys like Okoro and Wade. So everybody starts to look better on Cleveland. But my two best guesses at who soaks up the usage outside of Kevin Love whenever he's on the floor are Markkanen and Mobley.
Not all the injury report news is negative today. We do have the Nets getting guys back from COVID, not the typical situations that you and I are talking about, but now we have the inverse situation where with the Nets, Kevin Durant, LaMarcus Aldridge, Cam Thomas are all back in action. With Durant back in the mix, how does that impact James Harden? And what do you make of Durant individually now that he's back in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, it moves Harden from being basically as close to a must play as you're going to get, when Durant is out, to just being a good tournament option that, he looks pretty good. He doesn't look great. He loses production as you would expect when Durant is back. He's still likely to play a ton of minutes. He still looks like a quality play, but he is riskier with Durant back. And the same can be said for Durant. I don't necessarily expect Durant to be limited here. He's had a couple of days to ramp up his conditioning. We saw James Harden in his first game back just get right back to it and play like 36 or 37 minutes. I'm expecting that to be the case for Durant as well, but there is obviously a little bit of risk. That could be wrong and he plays 32 or 33 minutes instead of 36 or 37. So they both still look like good tournament plays, but neither one near as good an option individually as Harden is whenever Durant's out.
Yeah, it's just good to get some of these stars back in the mix when we've been missing so many of them recently. Also, guys, shout out to Yahoo, the sponsor of the NBA Injury Report. If you guys are not familiar with Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sign up using the link in the description box below. Head on over to Yahoo, make a deposit, enter a contest. You get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Also, you could receive up to a $100 match on your first deposit by using the promo code XMIS100. That is a promo code that will be running out soon because, it's for Christmas and we're past Christmas. Use that promo code XMIS100 to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit over at Yahoo. So moving on, and another player who could be back in the mix, and it's the Washington Wizards' Bradley Beal. He's been out for a little bit due to COVID. He's questionable, so potentially plays, potentially doesn't play. If he is back in the mix, Adam, what are you expecting from Bradley Beal, who's been a little bit of a disappointment from a fantasy perspective this season?
Yeah, his pricing is really interesting today because he looks like a pretty solid value on FanDuel if he's back, and he looks close to unplayable on DraftKings at 10,100. So I think it's really site dependent there. But if he is able to play, I'm expecting it to more or less be, what we've seen all season long. I would expect him to play low to mid 30s in his first game back, most likely. So he will look like a quality option on FanDuel. I think he'd be very difficult to roster on DraftKings.
And the final situation on the slate, it is the Denver Nuggets. And this is a game that is kind of similar to what we had with the Miami Heat yesterday, where I wanted to play a fun game yesterday where I had people guess how many players from Miami Heat are going to be in the optimal lineup. And then the game got canceled. So people came in, they answered 0. They were all correct. They won. But we could see something similar with the Denver Nuggets today because there are not very many healthy bodies. Aaron Gordon is questionable. Monty Morris is questionable. Austin Rivers is questionable. Vlatko Kankar is questionable. That comes in addition to Michael Porter Jr., Jeff Green, Bones, Highland, PJ Dozier, Jamal Murray, Marcus Howard, and Zeke Naji are all out for today. So obviously a potential for a massive amount of value. We need to know if the game is going to play. Jokic is somebody that we're all going to be interested in, really regardless of who's in or out for Denver. But for some of these other pieces that could potentially be value, what are you looking at?
Yeah, it's tough right now because there's so many moving parts. It's also possible, of course, that we get more positive tests throughout the day. But if Monte Morris were to sit, then Campazzo is going to look like a very strong option. He played 32 minutes last game. Bones Highland is out, so the minutes are even more secure for Campazzo. If Morris plays, he looks fine. If Aaron Gordon is out, it's likely that you see, I don't really know, more Devon Reed, maybe some Michael Green playing alongside Jokic. That's something that we haven't really seen this year, but there's no Jeff Green, there's no Zeke Naji. If you take Aaron Gordon out as well, you're getting really thin in the front court. So it's just a lot of moving pieces right now, but one way or the other, I think there end up being, assuming the game goes, I think there end up being quality options from Denver because, obviously you have Jokic, but if Morris and Gordon are in, they're pretty fairly priced. Barton looks pretty good one way or the other. But if those guys are out, you're getting, more Campazzo, more Rivers, more Reed, most likely.
Yeah, and this is one of those slates, particularly this Denver Nuggets situation. You really going to need to, not just need to, have to, you absolutely have to, need to. This is unquestionable. If you're playing NBA DFS tonight, you need to stay updated on all the news. And this game does start a little bit later than the other games, but make sure you're following us on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and anything that pops up at all. If some of these Denver Nuggets players get rolled out, other guys get added to the injury report, whatever it may be, leave a question in the comment section below. Good luck tonight, guys.